Welcome back to episode 2 of Origin Stories with your host, me, AZDeadpool. Just want to start off this episode by thanking everyone that listened to my first episode. It really does mean a lot. Again, that episode was over an hour long. Just a quick note, I'm going to try and make this not as long, so we'll see how that works out. But thank you guys for listening to it, no matter how long you listen to it at all or anything like that. Any sort of listen time is very greatly appreciated. It's just mainly me rambling, so again, I thank you for that, because it's not always going to be like that. Like what I said, the actual plan is to get other cosplayers here to interview them and find out about them too, so it won't always be me. But again, thank you for listening to that, and kind of expand upon that a little more. Recording that whole episode, it was a little bit more difficult than I originally thought. So straight up, like, I had to re-record the episode in the first place. I'm trying to remember why, like, now, but yeah, it was not a huge nightmare. It was more so just tedious. It was weird. I say weird, I've never done it before, but I know one thing's for sure is after I recorded everything and gotten the pictures and everything that you saw in the first episode, I had to go back and readjust everything, because everything was in like a 720 aspect ratio, and I wanted 1080p, so I had to like go through everything again and readjust the ratio aspect and everything like that. So that was one thing that I learned straight away to make sure it is fine-tuned before like I send it off to YouTube and everything like that. And then after everything was done, I uploaded it to YouTube, and then the processing started. I forgot how much time it takes for YouTube to process, but at the same time, first episode was over an hour long, so I did not take that into consideration with how long that could take. The ironic thing is that by the time I had finished everything, it was April 1st, as we all know, April Fool's Day, and the more I thought about it, I was thinking this would be kind of a funny kind of joke, because I feel like if I initially just had said, like, I was putting out a podcast on April Fool's Day, no one probably would have believed me. They would have been like, okay, yeah, cool, whatever, lame joke. But I thought that would have been hilarious to be like, no, there actually is a podcast that I started. You should go listen to it. That was the plan, the day of April 1st. But that didn't quite happen the way I wanted it to. Mainly because the processing took forever. Just the standard definition, that took a few hours. So I thought, okay, cool, now that that's done, I can upload it, right? But then I noticed the HD version was still processing, because it goes through standard definition and then high definition. And I thought, okay, maybe I might have a chance. Spoiler alert, it did not finish in time. That took at least, I'm gonna guesstimate here, maybe 5 to 6 hours to process the entire thing for high definition. So yeah, that was a learning process for sure. But overall, it was fun. I mean, that's why I'm here right now recording a second episode. So yeah, definitely some learning that happened and everything. So I'm hoping to take all of that and apply it to this episode. And hopefully, this episode won't be as long. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep it somewhat more of a digestible amount, because again, I know over an hour of a video is kind of asking a lot for people to listen through all the way to. So yeah, I'm gonna try and keep it short, or at least as short as I possibly can. I don't want it to be too quick to be okay, then what's the point of even listening? With that being said, we're going to transition over into pop culture stuff. Let's start with Morbius. So, saw Morbius opening night, Thursday, IMAX. Of course, as you may have already heard from my first episode, I love IMAX. If a movie is offered in IMAX, I will go see it in IMAX. But all of that considered, Morbius, it wasn't the greatest. It just wasn't. I kind of went in with like low expectations, and those expectations were pretty much met. Yeah, I think if I had to rate it out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6, and I know and I'm pretty sure to most people that would be considered kind of generous, which is understandable, but I thought it was very okay. It wasn't like great by any means, but at the same time, I've seen plenty of like worse movies, so yeah, I don't think this is Marvel's worst movie. I don't, because Thor: The Dark World is kind of everyone's go-to on worst Marvel movies, but I don't know. I don't think Morbius is all that bad. Like, I can tell like people tried and everything like that. One of the biggest gripes for me is that the movie was fairly predictable. I just felt like we all knew where it was going and everything like that. You could kind of predict the moves that were coming, like well ahead of when they were going to happen and everything like that. With that, like I also like talked about this in the first episode too. Sony doesn't have a good track record of kind of giving these kind of more B-list character solo movies. They don't have like the best track record of putting these out. Venom 1 and 2 being like the most recent examples. Again, I like Venom 1 and 2. They could have been way better than they were, but I also think that Venom 1 and 2 are better than Morbius in that sense. After all of this was over, this kind of made me think, like, what does this mean for the Kraven movie? Like, are they still going to go through with it? As far as I know, they're like actively filming it right now. What I'm just not too sure about is why Sony thinks that they can make these Spider-Man villain spin-off movies without Spider-Man himself. We all know Spider-Man is a very big driving factor of like movies and stuff like that. Like, Spider-Man is the reason why you would go to see a Spider-Man movie, not the villain necessarily. And even if you did want to go see the villain, you would expect Spider-Man to be in that movie. I mean, Morbius, Venom, two fairly big Spider-Man villains that had their own movie, but no Spider-Man whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know, like, if the box office numbers are any indication that maybe Sony may rethink making this Kraven movie, or maybe they'll put a halt on it, or they just might continue to go through with it at all, or they may just try to go through with it regardless. Who knows? It seems like they're kind of building up solo movies for a potential Sinister Six movie somewhere down the line. I mean, I guess, like, if that is like the end game kind of for it, I can see why they would want to put out solo movies first. But I feel instead of movies, you could kind of do like a very limited like episode, very limited show, or very limited episode show, if that makes sense. It sounded like it makes sense, but yeah, I feel like that would be the better route to go rather than a movie, like a big, huge budgeted movie. Then again, you know, TV shows aren't cheap by any means anyway either, but yeah, Morbius was a thing. I honestly thought Jared Leto was pretty decent in this too. I really liked Matt Smith as his villain, so I feel like they definitely tried their best at what was given to them. The script itself just seemed kind of weak, and that kind of goes back to me saying that it was fairly kind of predictable. But it also did seem like there were pieces there for a better movie. But again, have no idea what was. We don't know all of what happened, like behind the scenes or anything like that. But yeah, I feel like there were parts of a good movie there, or at least semblance of a good movie that was potentially there. But overall, it just seemed like kind of a mess. But I guess we'll have to wait and see exactly what the box office ending total is, because for those of you that don't know, for a movie to kind of break even, it has to make double its budget, and I'm not I don't have the numbers with me on what Morbius's budget was, but at the time of this recording, I think the last I checked, Morbius had made, I think, just about its budget. And again, you'd think I would have been more prepared and like looked this up and like brought you the numbers and everything, but yeah, I didn't. So yeah, laziness on my part there. Sorry about that. It just doesn't seem like it's gonna make it doesn't seem like it's gonna earn its money back, is what I'm pretty much getting at. Okay, so I think that was a pretty general review without really spoiling anything. With that in mind, I am going to talk about the post-credit scenes, so a spoiler warning is in effect here. Post-credit scenes, they were weird. So the post-credit scene is, we see the same kind of interdimensional tear that happened in No Way Home appears again, and then Michael Keaton's Vulture from Tom Holland's universe somehow gets transported from Tom Holland's universe into the Venom/Morbius universe. Okay, straight away there, like, that had me confused. Like, in No Way Home, Toby and Andrew, Sandman, Electro, Green Goblin, they all, were transported into Tom's universe, but at the end, when Doctor Strange reversed the spell, they all got sent back to their, like, respective dimensions. But for some reason, Michael Keaton's Vulture gets sent elsewhere. Like, that was my first thought. Like, why is he getting displaced while others got sent back home? So, yeah, I didn't quite understand that. And then his Vulture gets transported into, like, a prison cell. And his first thought was, well, hope the food here is better than the other one. So my other thought was, is he even at all sad that he's not going to see his daughter or his wife? He seemed to be pretty okay with being in a completely different universe. I mean, at the same time, to be fair, he may not have known that he got sent to a completely different universe. Maybe he thought he just got sent to a different prison. Who knows? It's kind of all unclear. And then after, okay, that was the first post-credit scene, was pretty much the displacement of Michael Keaton's Vulture. Second post-credit scene, which happened almost immediately afterwards, was shows Jared Leto's Morbius driving out like the middle of nowhere. Then out of nowhere, Michael Keaton's Vulture shows up in his full gear and everything like that we've seen from Homecoming. Straight away, my thought was, how does he have his gear in a completely different dimension/universe and stuff like that when all of that was in Tom Holland's universe? Like, how does he have that? That makes no sense. But about a day or so later, I was reading an article saying that the director had said that Vulture had built his suit in Morbius's universe, which I guess is fine. But then that makes me wonder, like, how does he have the technology there? Because Vulture's suit was made of kind of a combination of Stark tech and also wreckage from the Chitauri battle from the first Avengers movie. So in order to, like, make that kind of stuff, does that mean both Stark tech and a Chitauri battle happened in Venom and Morbius's universe? Like, that. These post-credit scenes pretty much gave me more confused questions than they did any sort of answers, if at all. So I think it kind of goes along with how much of kind of a mess this movie was. But yeah, it was a very okay movie. Again, it makes me kind of wonder what this means for any sort of future, like, single villain-ish movies that Sony has planned. Are they still going to go through with them, or are they going to rethink? I also saw, like, a little bit of information that said that Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios' president, had no involvement in the post-credit scenes, and I think that pretty much shows, and I think that's a pretty good indication of Sony, like, on how they handle things, because I feel like Sony would be okay with these kinds of things if they had more of a helping hand from, like, Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, but I think sometimes Sony wants to kind of, like, prove themselves that they can do this without the help, which is fine, but again, they haven't had the best track record really at all. I mean, yes, they can say that Venom, like, the first Venom made a very good amount of money, but Venom 2 didn't do as well, and again, like, there was no real kind of involvement, like, in Marvel/Disney's part on this, so I don't know. I'm just not quite sure where future solo movies for Spider-Man villains kind of stand after this, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. So, and then going from one movie to another, Multiverse of Madness tickets went on sale this past Wednesday. Now again, I know I talked about this a little bit on episode 1, but I'm very particular about where I like to sit, and if I can, I try to get the same exact seats for every single movie that I go see in IMAX. So, just a little background info here. Like, my regular kind of morning for the week, like a work week, is I get up at 7 in the morning, and I get up, I feed my dogs, and then if it's a shower day, I go right into the shower, and then after that, get ready for work, and then leave. So, Wednesday morning, I'm up at 7. The first thing I do is get on my phone and start looking to see if Multiverse of Madness tickets have gone on sale yet. Turns out they had, and I go to choose my seat, go to choose my normal seats, because I like to sit, like, dead center in the middle, so, like, towards the back if I can. To me, it's just the best way to, like, watch a movie. But to my kind of surprise, by the time I had logged on to get tickets, and this was like maybe a few minutes after 7 in the morning, a majority of that middle section was already taken. So I'm in a panic, thinking like, okay, I'm not going to get my normal seats, so I'm just going to have to settle for something else. So then I start trying, I pick up some other seats, so I'm trying, and it keeps loading. I'm pretty sure Harkin's website was just experiencing high traffic that they weren't necessarily ready for, which I've never quite understood that, especially when it came to like No Way Home tickets and Endgame tickets. It seemed like movie ticket websites, their servers were not prepared, which you would think they would be given the excitedness of people and everything like that. But it seemed like Harkins was experiencing like very like a good amount of issues, like trying to buy tickets, because I saw like the wheel kind of like spinning for about 5 to 6 minutes, and it wasn't until then I just decided to go like the other route and go and log on through Fandango to buy tickets, which I did, and I got my tickets. They're just not in my normal like kind of center seats, which I'm a little annoyed about, and I know it's a very first world problem to have. It is. There's no way to get around it, but nonetheless, I have my tickets for Multiverse of Madness Thursday night, so I guess that's what's important. They're not like dead center seats like I normally like to have, but I'll be seeing the movie regardless. So yeah, that is a very small like little window into when it comes to me buying tickets, because I'm very particular about where I sit and everything like that. So that was another thing that kind of made me think, is that I had an easier time getting tickets for No Way Home than I did Multiverse of Madness, which I would have thought, like, if that was the case, I thought it would have been the other way around. But no Way Home tickets were way easier to get than Multiverse of Madness tickets, because No Way Home, I got my normal like center like seats pretty easily. Not the case here with Multiverse of Madness. But again, I know it's a first world problem, but I'm going regardless, so I'm very excited to see the movie anyway. So yeah, so that's a little less than a month away now, so that's another something to look forward to. Okay, next item, Moon Knight. I am really enjoying this show so far. Really like the first episode, and I really liked episode 2, and I'm really looking forward to see what's next. Right away, like, we got like little kind of glimpses of Khonshu in the first episode, and then episode 2. Oh, by the way, I should have like prefaced this like with Moon Knight. Spoiler warnings will be in effect here, because I'm going to be talking about what's been going on with episode 1 and 2. So again, I should have prefaced that, and I apologize. Episode 2, we get to see a very better look of Khonshu. And I'll go into a little bit more about who and what Khonshu is all about. I've seen some people online kind of saying like they're a little confused as to what's going on with Moon Knight, and that's completely understandable. The character isn't overly well known. You kind of have to know your comic history a little more to kind of know Moon Knight, I guess would be the right way of saying it. But I also think it's the confusing nature of it might be also by design, because of Stephen Grant's multiple personality disorder. So I think it kind of fits in with the narrative of how confusing like his own life is and everything like that. So I think that and that's just speculation, I'm thinking that maybe just by design that they're making it sort of kind of chaotic and everything to kind of go along the theme of all of that. In general for the show, I really like the way they use reflections, and you get to see a better use of it for sure in episode 2 when you have Stephen Grant talking to Mark Spector, and obviously they're the same person, but they share a different mind. Or okay, that sounded a little confusing. It's the same body being used but different personalities, thus the multiple personality disorder. And okay, going back to Khonshu, he looks so cool. If you're not aware, Khonshu is the kind of being that follows Mark/Steven around, the one with the gigantic like kind of skeleton beak. In the comics, Khonshu is the god of the moon, and he couldn't, and a little background is he can't physically enter Earth, so he would choose a quote-unquote champion, as it was, and that person would be dubbed the Moon Knight, thus where Mark Spector/Stephen Grant come in. And again, like a little background, there have been different Moon Knights, and as we learned in the show, especially in episode 2, Arthur Harrow, Ethan Hawke's character, was a former avatar of Khonshu. So I think they're gonna definitely like building up to like a potential fight between Arthur Harrow and Mark Spector/Stephen Grant. Maybe because I'm assuming Arthur Harrow is going to try and maybe regain control of, or maybe regain control of either the Moon Knight persona, or maybe he'll want to try to overthrow Khonshu for maybe another otherworldly power. Again, I'm really excited to see where this all goes. Something else that I had kind of dug a little bit on was since Moon Knight isn't overly well known in terms of like your main superheroes and everything like that, I know his main kind of arch nemesis is a name by the name of Bushman, and he's like kind of, like I said, the most notable villain for in the Moon Knight comics. But the showrunner Jeremy Slater had mentioned that Bushman probably would have garnered too much of a comparison to Black Panther's Killmonger, so they kind of went like a different route of like a main villain rather than Bushman. And for like a little background on Bushman, if you're curious, he was a mercenary along with Mark Spector, and kind of the main story between Bushman and Mark Spector was they were on a mission in the Sudan with other mercenaries, and they come across a Dr. Peter I think you pronounce his name Auron, and then Bushman goes after Auron, and Marlene turns out to be the eventual love interest of Mark Spector. So Bushman kills Dr. Peter Alron, Marlene's father. I'm sorry if this is kind of confusing right now. But yes, Bushman kills Marlene's father. And then Bushman sets his sights on Marlene. Mark interferes, punches him to protect her. But after that, they kind of like have a falling out there, and Bushman pretty much almost leaves Mark for dead, pretty much. And at that point, after Bushman thinks like Mark is pretty much on death's doorstep and everything, leaves, that's when Khonshu comes in and strikes a deal, as it is, with Mark to pretty much reinvigorate him, give him life, and then give him the ability to be superpowered in exchange for being a champion. So that just a little background on Bushman. I do wonder, like, maybe if not in this show, maybe we'll get something like that somewhere down in the future. But to me, like, one of the highlights of episode 2 for Moon Knight was seeing Mr. Knight live action for the first time. I know I mentioned it in the first episode, I really loved the way the suit looks and everything like that. I don't know why, I've always liked the way like a suit and a mask combo works, like a full like 3-piece suit. So you have your blazer, your vest, pants, and everything like that, but you put like a mask on too. I don't know why, I think it looks like a good combination. That's just me though. The details on the suit alone are just really, really cool. Like, they obviously have like a very big Egyptian theme on them, but like the intricate details on them, they're insane, like in the best way possible. And as for like a little background on Mr. Knight, that persona in the comics, Mark would don a regular suit when he's in New York, kind of like just like patrolling around and stuff like that. But he would don a suit in places where the NYPD wouldn't want superheroes interfering in investigations. So Mark would, like, he in essence made up the Mr. Knight persona to kind of get around that, because I mean, again, comics, it's a very like strange world. Obviously, it's you can pretty much do anything. But I guess the idea was, oh, this is just some guy in a suit. He's not a superhero. We won't bother to deal with him as the police are figuring out details of a crime of some sort. And from what we saw in episode 2 of Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, he looked like he was maybe like a little bit more comical / jokey, which, I mean, I thought it was fine. Like, I'm not like bothered or anything like that being a fan of the Mr. Knight persona from the comics. I'm fine with what it was. The thing that kind of jogged my mind a little bit was seeing the way, like, not only like the face, like the shape of the mask and everything, the way like the mask is animated to make it look like he's talking. It reminded me like a lot of like Deadpool, like his Deadpool's like mask animations. So I don't know if they got some of the same people to work on that, but I don't know. I just thought that was kind of like a little comparison that I noticed myself. I just thought it was kind of neat. But for episode 2, there were some Easter eggs too that you may not have noticed. The first one that I kind of picked up on was the GRC ad, which is shown on the double-decker bus that Mr. Knight was thrown into. The GRC was shown in both the Falcon and Winter Soldier and also the Eternals. And if you don't remember, the GRC is the organization that helps those that were pretty much like affected by the blip. So I thought that was kind of like pretty cool, like just little continuity here and there between like the shows and like the main Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything like that. I know I've seen for this next Easter egg, I know I've seen other people like kind of post about it, but when we see Steven / Mark in that kind of storage facility, he passes by like some QR codes, and I've seen other people post about it already, but if you were to scan that barcode, it actually works, and it gives you a free digital comic about Moon Knight and The last time I checked, the comic that is brought up when you scan it is Werewolf by Night number 33, which is the series in which Moon Knight debuted. Moon Knight debuted in Werewolf by Night number 32, I think, if I remember correctly, back in 1975. I don't know. I'll have the correct published year up on the screen. But yeah, those were just a couple of Easter eggs that I noticed in episode 2 of Moon Knight. Overall, I thought it was a good second episode. I want to see what the event, like what the main motivation is for both Khonshu and Mark. Like, what it seems like they're obviously have some sort of deal, so I want to know what's going on there and what exactly did they agree on and everything like that. Because obviously we ended episode 2 with what seems like Mark being back in control now of the body, waking up in Egypt. So the really interesting part about this is that there's only 4 more episodes. It's a 6-episode series, and there's also no guarantee that there's no guarantee that Oscar Isaac will return back as Moon Knight, and that's because this goes back to a couple of years ago. Kevin Feige not wanting to have any more big long-term contracts that would tie actors down to roles that those actors may lose passion for. I know there was heavy speculation a couple of years ago about Chris Evans not wanting to play Captain America anymore, because I don't necessarily blame him either, because that's a long time to commit to one character and everything like that. I know going back to No Way Home, I talked about it with the pop culture junkies, and that Tom Holland has been playing Spider-Man since about 2015. That was 7 years ago. That's a very big role that you have to commit a lot of time and energy to, so it's very understandable that you would get burnt out from something like that. So that's why we could see Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight only for these 6 episodes, and he could never return again. Honestly, I think that's kind of, it's nice that they're not tying actors down anymore, but I feel like for a role like this, I don't think this would be the last time we see Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, but that's just my speculation. That's my own prediction. That's something we'll have to wait and see about. So, okay, transitioning over from Marvel to DC, the biggest DC news that I've seen come out is unfortunately Ezra Miller, and I say unfortunately because Ezra Miller has found himself in trouble again. So for those of you that haven't seen or heard about any of it, I guess according back on March 28th, a police report was filed against him saying that Ezra Miller became agitated after patrons at a Hawaii bar began singing karaoke. He shouted some obscenities, grabbed the microphone from a 23-year-old woman as she was singing, and allegedly also lunged at a 32-year-old man playing darts. He was arrested and charged on both counts, but was also released on a $500 bail. This all took place, I guess, at a margarita village in Hawaii, and this was the day before Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore was to be released. So it seemed like he was kind of out celebrating the fact that the movie was about to drop and everything like that. But obviously this isn't good news, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened, because I believe it was, and forgive me for not knowing the exact timeline, but I know it was either early last year or very late 2020 that there was video footage of Ezra Miller choking a fan. And granted, if I remember this correctly, the fan was being very rude and everything like that, was continuing to get into Ezra Miller's face, and he was kind of playing it off, not doing much to it, but then he eventually snapped after the fan wouldn't leave him alone. But with that being said, WB more recently, within the last few days, held an emergency meeting to kind of discuss what they want to do with Ezra Miller and everything like that. As of right now, any of the projects that he's involved with have been put on hold, which again is completely understandable. This makes me wonder, like, where does like Flashpoint kind of like stand now? Because again, Flashpoint was due out November 4th of this year, 2022, but just about a month ago it got pushed to June 23rd, 2023. So there's still plenty of time to kind of still make that movie. I don't know all of what needs to be done or anything like that. Along with affecting the Flashpoint movie, this makes me kind of also think, does this affect Zack Snyder and his like Snyderverse? And the reason why I bring that up is obviously like Zack picked Ezra Miller to be his Flash and everything like that. And with everything that's gone on with WB and Zack Snyder recently, like, does this give Warner Brothers more ammunition to kind of like push Zack Snyder aside, saying like, well, you chose this person as the Flash and he's so problematic, like, we're not going to trust you with anything else ever again. Granted, it seems like WB's and Zack Snyder's like ties have been kind of cut, because it just seemed like a very kind of bad and toxic kind of time all around while they were filming Justice League. So not quite sure where that's going to go after that, but I know more recently there's seemingly more hope for the Zack Snyder's Snyderverse to potentially keep going, to continue is what I was trying to say. In that Warner Brothers was bought out by Discovery, so it is now Warner Brothers Discovery, and it seems like some of those in higher positions that were with WB that were kind of against Zack Snyder will no longer be in power. So there's going to be a pretty big shift of power in terms of like WB and their movie division and everything like that. So depending on who gets like put in those like new higher up roles we could potentially see the return of Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse. Maybe we won't. Obviously that's all kind of up to time and those that will be in power. So I thought that was kind of like something to kind of consider, especially with Zack choosing Ezra Miller as his Flash. And honestly, like I like Ezra Miller as the Flash. I really like him in the role. I think he does a very like good job as the Flash. That being said, I've seen there's been somewhat of a fan movement to have Grant Gustin to be his replacement. For those of you that don't know, Grant Gustin is who plays the Flash on BCW's version of the character on television. Like right now, like as a quick snap judgment, it would seem like the logical thing to do. But at the same time, I would like to see like more so Ezra get help first, to see if him getting help does kind of put him back on the right path. I noticed something that was kind of troubling in that WB had mentioned that, you know, they're having meetings about Ezra Miller and everything like that, but I didn't see anything being reported on about WB like kind of getting him help, because obviously he seems like he needs Ezra needs it. And apologies, I know Ezra's pronouns are at least they, like they, them. So apologies. I know I've referred to Ezra as he. So I hope no matter what, I hope Ezra gets like the help that they need, because this kind of outburst and kind of the way they were acting, that tells me that they might need help, like mentally or something like that. It seems like something is wrong. So I'm hoping Ezra at least gets help first above all else, because mental health is, like in general, is so much lower than it has been in years and everything like that. I hope Ezra gets the help that they need first. Like get that help first and then go from there. Like I don't think we should be jumping to replace Ezra right away. Like let's see if they can put themselves in the right position first. And if Ezra gets help and they still don't act right, or they still don't improve, then maybe let's talk about potentially replacing Ezra with someone else as the Flash. But yeah, until then, let's see if Ezra can get help first. And again, I'm not a professional like psychologist in any way, shape, or form, but I just hope that Ezra gets help at the very least, because stuff like that, it's not easy. Like, mental health isn't easy to deal with. So yeah, let's hope that Ezra gets some help. So at that point in time, I think that's pretty much all I've wanted to talk about mainly in this episode. And again, we're gonna do the same thing that we did last time. I put up a question sticker on Instagram on my story for people to to ask me questions and stuff like that, or just to see like what else you want out of the podcast too. So I got a couple of questions in, and we'll start with those. First one being, once again, that _1_art_guy asks, what trend of costume will be seen at Phoenix Fan Fusion? Which, first of all, I think that's a pretty great question. It's not something I really had thought about at first, but seeing as how this is going to be Arizona's first really, really big con since 2019, there's been a lot of things that have come out since then. And I think like a good trend of costume would probably be, I think we'll probably see a good amount of Mandalorians. I think we'll see a good amount of Spider-Man too. I mean, Spider-Man's always been like a pretty reliable character that you can see like a lot of. What else? I think we'll see some Batman too, since we had Robert Pattinson's Batman happen in March. What else has come out? Again, like a lot of things have come out between May of 2019 and April 2022, which again, it doesn't seem like almost 3 years since Arizona's had a huge con, but yeah, that's this current reality we're living in right now. And Fan Fusion is about a little more than a month away, which is crazy to think about in itself. But yeah, I think those three picks are pretty safe picks. In Mandalorian, whether it's the actual Mandalorian himself, I think we'll see maybe an increase in Boba Fett's, maybe Cara Dune's, either like Casca Reeves or even Bo-Katan, or even we'll see an increase in Ahsoka's too. But I think for sure like Star Wars will have an increase in cosplayers or costumes in general. Same with Spider-Man, especially since we now have seen Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland all share the screen at one time. I think we'll definitely see like an increase in that. And I think since it's still kind of fresh on everyone's mind, I think we'll see an increase of Batman as well, with Robert Pattinson's Batman. Not necessarily Robert Pattinson's Batman, but maybe other iterations of Batman too. Alright, next question, or suggestion rather. Average Fanboy suggests maybe some deep talks about the cosplay community, its flaws, and what needs to be fixed. That's a pretty big topic in general, and I know I kind of touched upon it when in episode 1. So I think I'll pretty much just kind of be repeating myself here, but again, cosplay is for everyone. It really is. There's no need to tear everyone down when, especially like if you're wearing the same costume as someone, or if you're not 100% like quote unquote accurate, because the costumes don't need to be like pinpoint accurate. They really don't. Just the important thing, as long as you're like the costume that you have on, as long as you're having fun with it, that's all that matters. Like, it doesn't matter if it's accurate or not. It's your own interpretation, because cosplay, like anything else, like music, movies, or anything like that, it's subjective. Like, we all have our own viewpoints of what perfection is and everything like that. So at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter like if our stuff is accurate or not. Just as long as we're having fun, that's all that matters. Because again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record with this. Like, we're all nerds here. Let's not tear each other down because we're just celebrating our fandoms in a certain way that we want to. As long as it doesn't harm anyone, that's all that matters. As long as it doesn't harm anyone and it's not offensive, that's really all that should matter. So I think that's kind of like a general type of thing, because I think no matter what we do, unfortunately, there's always going to be some like negativity kind of with a community like this, especially since, I mean, some people take it as a competition when it's not a competition. It's like you can like you don't have to be like an expert on things. You really don't. As long as you enjoy it, that's all that matters. So that's what I'll leave it at that. And final question comes from Tic Tac Toad. What other cosplays would you like to do someday? At least as of right now, one that really sticks out in my mind, I would really, really like to pull off a Mr. Knight cosplay, because again, like, the suit itself looks so beautiful. It really does. Now, I don't think I could like pull off or at least get my hands on a suit that detailed, because that would be insanely expensive. But thankfully, like, a three-piece white suit probably isn't going to be like a huge expense. It's not going to be cheap by any means, but it's not going to be like hugely expensive at the same time. But I mean, if you couldn't tell, like, I tend to stick to cosplays that hide my face. So I think sticking with that would probably be pretty cool. But I think, like, yeah, straight away, like, the one that's on my mind, like, more recently is definitely a Mr. Knight cosplay. And I mean, maybe I've already started looking at pieces for this certain cosplay. Maybe I haven't, but I think my main thing that I would kind of run into is the mask itself, because I've seen plenty of people like have like the 3D printed files for it. My only thing is that for that I would want like an actual fabric mask rather than a 3D printed mask. So I don't know exactly how I would make that work, because yeah. So right away, like the one I'm kind of eyeing most right now, aside from like to kind of get away from like Deadpool and or Spider-Man, would probably be a Mr. Knight cosplay, because I think that would look pretty cool. I'll tell you this right now, like if I was able to put it together in a timely fashion, maybe I'll bring it to Fan Fusion at the end of May. Maybe it depends on if I can get my hands on everything that I want to. So, but yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up episode 2. Thankfully, this one looks like it's gonna be significant. Well, not significantly shorter, but shorter nonetheless. But yeah, again, thank you for listening to me ramble and talk about nonsense that is the world of pop culture and comics and nerdiness and everything like that. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with me. I'm not quite sure exactly when we'll have an episode with an actual other cosplayer other than myself, because I'm hoping that by this second episode you won't be tired of hearing my voice solely by itself. So hopefully I'll have something worked out to where we can have another cosplayer on. So yeah, that being said, thank you again for just listening. It really does mean a lot. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next episode. So yeah, take care of yourself.